project started during the pandemic of last year, and it was essentially a way to like lift up teachers, but also realize that like a lot of like, at least from me being here in this district for a while, we forget about the importance of like the human behind the student, because it's very much just like pushing to like do well on standardized tests, and
Yeah.
child should learn, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that. And that's shifted over the years, I feel like, too. So we're trying to get to know the human behind teachers, essentially, and what their story is, and like what their passions are, and how that kind of ties into teaching. So obviously you've said a lot of awesome things about you, and it's nice to meet you because we're in the same district, and otherwise I would have never met you. So this is great for being
Yeah,
here.
I'm really happy to finally meet you because I was telling another colleague about this, and I'm like, today Pittsburgh sounds really familiar. My colleague, Emmanuel Williams, he's a
Oh
teacher.
yeah,
Yeah,
Manny.
yeah, I went to
Yes.
college with Manny, so but he and I have been friends. Ooh, long time.
Oh man,
I think
that's
I've known that man
awesome.
12 years actually. Now that I think about it. Yeah, actually, no, that makes sense because I met him my freshman year. So yeah, I've known this man since I've been in Pittsburgh.
He's a good guy, really good guy.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you like? I know what his journey was, but how did you go to school for education? Did you decide like halfway through that you, or like later on, that you wanted to do education, or did you like know from age essentially?
I'm going to make this story short because it's
Okay.
really hard for me. I use a lot of words, as you noticed. So
No worries.
when I was a child, I was like,
Okay.
I would be a teacher. Then I'm like, they don't make money, so no, thank you.
Fair.
Then I was in high school. We did junior achievement. It's a program that typically honors student of a certain subject. So honors English, honors history, whatever. It was honors history, I think, my senior year. So we had to teach economics to a grade, and my grade I think was kindergarten. I accidentally brought the wrong kit to teach them. I think I grabbed the second grade kit, and I remember reading was difficult for me, and I modified the lessons. Like, this is too hard. Like, how am I supposed to explain this to 5-year-olds? And then the last lesson, I'm like, this is impossible. They have to do all this math. Like, they're still learning how to count. And my friend said, Shannon, you have the wrong lesson bag. Like, what do you mean? She goes, this is for second grade. You need kindergarten. And I said, oh, I'm smart. I should be a teacher. And I was like, they still don't make that much money. So no. I wanted to go to school for journalism, so came to Pitt, was studying communications. I loved Spanish, so I was doing Spanish, and I had a minor at the time in Africana Studies. So I'm like, boom, got my majors, got my minor, I'm good to go. End of sophomore year, I'm like, communications is stupid. I hate this degree. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I don't like it. I don't like the classes. I don't like the learning. I don't. The professors were nice. No disrespect to them. I just did not love the subject. And I remember after my one final, I cried. Like, I failed it. I said I knew not one answer. I passed, but that's not the point. That level of stress was not worth it. So I remember going to Arande Sharif. I always talk about him because he saved me from myself. And he was like, Shannon, what do you want to do? I go, I don't know. I just know I love learning. He goes, well, just do that and you'll figure it out. I was just like, that's your advice? I'll figure it out after just going to school for 4 years? Okay. So I took this advice. So I changed my majors to Spanish and Africana Studies and a concentration in communications. I worked for a nonprofit for a while called Earth Outreach, doing after school tutoring, summer camp teaching, and I was like, I think I like teaching. I think I like it. Let me try it. They don't make no money, but I'm gonna try it. So I applied for Teach for America, didn't get it. I was just like, so then I'm thinking like maybe it's not in the stars for me. I applied for the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship. Didn't get that either. I said teaching's not in the stars for me. And I was approached by some professors at the School of Ed because they're the ones who interview you for the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship. They said you should apply for a pit. And I was like, ooh, there's a big old N on me. They said you should apply for a pit. And I'm like, I mean, do you have scholarship money? Because I was just like, y'all expensive. So I ended up getting a little scholarship, and I went to Pitt's MAT program.
Okay.
And then when I finished, I'm like, okay, I gotta leave Pittsburgh. I don't want to be here. It's cold. It's sad. I want to be where it's hot, like Miami. Looked into teaching out that way, and didn't get anything. So I was nannying for a little bit, and I ended up getting a job as a teacher at Pittsburgh Public. And in my first year teaching, I thought I was gonna quit. I think it was like maybe December or January. I was like, I gotta make it to the end of the year. I just gotta make it to the end of the year, and we'll figure it out. Well, something happened, and I started working at Pittsburgh Obama, and I don't know what happened, but it was just magical. I loved it. So, like, my teaching story and all of that, which was the short version, by the way,
Fair.
it was a process of figuring out, like, what did I want to do? Did I really like it? And it was like after I was at Obama, like I knew I loved teaching. Like it was like I love what I do. I like I saw myself doing it for the rest of my life, so to speak. But interestingly enough, when I said the other points before about how I'm like, I don't want to teach, I make enough money. Not that I want to have a job for money, like to be like, I didn't want a job that made me filthy rich. It's just that I wanted a job that made me happy and also could pay my bills.
Yeah, for sure.
And at the time it was journalism or psychology, but I just didn't love, it's like, I'm not passionate about it. Like I don't love those things. I like those things, but I did not love those things. And I think after talking to Aronde and just working with as an after school teacher and a tutor, it's just kind of like, well, let me see if I like it. You know, let me see if this pans out for me. Especially because my other thoughts were I wasn't going to become a teacher until I had children. Still don't have any children. I'm 100% okay with that, by the way.
Yes.
1,000% okay with no babies right now. That is. So for me, I love what I do. And it's just interesting how like I originally was like, I don't want to be a teacher. They're poor. Here I am, a poor teacher. I shouldn't say poor. I'm not impoverished, but just it's just interesting how my mind was changed in a matter of just a couple conversations and some after school programs.
Yeah, that's amazing. The shift at Obama, can you like identify? I mean, I feel like everyone's first year of teaching, no matter where you are. Like, I actually thought I was going to die, or that's like what I thought. That was a little dramatic.
No,
but
you're not
it was
dramatic.
one of the like.
No.
There's like so many things like being bombarded like at your sense. I feel like your senses are just like completely overloaded, and you're trying to like figure all these things out. So like, do you remember like was there like was it like a mentor that you had at Obama that was different? Was it like the environment, or was it like?
It's a lot of things.
Okay.
Because I don't want to speak badly on any individual.
Yeah.
In my experience, but I will say when you have certain people in leadership that affect the way you perform in regards to their feedback, like I'll say the things they said. I was told in my first year teaching I would never be recommended for tenure. I was told in my first teaching that I got worse since I started. I've been told that I was a nagging teacher, like an annoying mom. And I'm not making this up. These are their words. This is my first year teaching.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I lost weight. I was maybe originally 122 pounds, somewhere around there. I'm heavier now a little bit, unfortunately. But anyway, I was like 122 pounds, 121 pounds for starting out my first year teaching. Mind you, I also was 22. So, you're still college skinny. And I dropped to 108.
Wow.
And I'm only 4'11", so like you're like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know, I'm so short. I'm a whole little tiny person. I'm basically a fourth grader.
That's beautiful.
Me and your students will blend in, and I kind of do. In the high school, people like forget that I'm a teacher. So when I say hi, like if I'm in the high school office and I'm talking to the secretary, and I turn around and I say, "Hey, Tom," they're like, "Oh my God, Miss Finley, I thought you were a student." I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, like, I've gotten that a lot. Compliment, thank you, thank you. But anyway, I was 108 pounds and my skin broke out. So I was happy I was skinny, but mad I was ugly, if that makes sense. I found a picture of me I posted that year of my first year teaching. And when I say I was ugly, I was like, who let me not one, take this picture, but two, post it, and three, make it my profile pic on Facebook. I said, I had some mean friends. Someone should have said, Shannon, you sure you want to post this as your profile pic? Like, you just got pimples all over your face. And I'm not saying you can't love the skin you're in, but I am a little vain. I don't love the skin I'm in when there's pimples all over the place, okay? I won't post it, or I'll put some foundation on. But all I'm saying is, I was like, wow.
I mean, that was all, I'm sure, all stress.
Oh, no, it truly was. Because, I mean, yeah. I was working out, but like to go from 120, first of all, when you're 120 and you're a 4'11", and your muscle, mind you, I had just finished a rugby season. So I was still like in shape. Like, from the end of rugby season to starting teaching, I'm a little bulky little thing. Like, I can grizzle someone up. But I shouldn't be losing weight. If anything, I should be maintaining. But anyway, I say all to say, a lot of things were said that hurt my feelings and kind of made me reevaluate my worth, reevaluate. Like, I literally said to myself, did I just spend $40,000 to fail? Like, did I just spend a year at Pitt in an intensive program to fail. And like that's where I was at. Like, did I fail? Did I do all this to fail? So when I was transferred to Obama because there was a position that opened up, it was just a better experience overall in regards to the leadership, the support, the community, the culture. I will say really because since Obama is a program that uh, has a language program,
it does. Yes.
Coming from the other buildings in Pittsburgh public schools where, like, I mean, I was at the one school was a Spanish magnet school, but the issue with that was, how do I say this in a nice way? I was not technically a teacher that was contracted. I was a substitute teacher. So my worth wasn't valued to the way I thought it was because I wasn't seen as a contracted employee. However, the culture of that school made me feel otherwise. Like, even though on paper it was as if I was just like a guest teacher, so to speak, the faculty there were amazing. Two women teachers definitely took me under their wing because they spoke Spanish too, because it's a Spanish magnet. The one had lived in Mexico for years, so she was really very much like, Shannon, I will help you with whatever you need. I know you have experience in teaching, but it was high school, primary is way different, and they were right. Man, let me tell you, I have these second graders doing these worksheets, and she was like, Shannon, they're learning to read still. I'm like, oh, you're right. Let me water it down. I don't know. I think I gave them like a middle school worksheet. Like,
the things you learned.
It was like something for sixth graders. And I'm giving it to like second graders. I'm like, oh, they don't, it's just Spanish. She's like, no, they're learning still how to read and write. Don't give them this. So more images, less words.
Yes.
I learned real quick, more images, less words, and have them write the words or whatever. But anyway, so I stepped my game up at that school. But once I was transferred, being around foreign language teachers all the time versus being the only one or a guest one, even though the other teachers in that building spoke Spanish and taught it, it was a magnet. So it wasn't necessarily like a focus the way it used to be back in the day. But that helped a lot. But then I am going to hop in my car because my battery's going to die and I don't want to die. I'm on the phone.
No worries.
But while I was transferred, I ended up leaving the district to go to another district because there was a differences in opinion from leadership and myself on what was considered sound pedagogical practices in teaching Spanish. And that's just a really fancy term of saying something else that I don't want to say.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But pretty much it was just, I needed to leave so that way I could kind of teach the way I should say would be the best for my students. And it was really hard actually because when I left, I told my students a completely different reason why I left. Like, I didn't tell them why I was leaving because from the previous statement that I just said, that wasn't my choice to leave, if that makes sense. It was one of those, we're asking you to leave, so to speak. Okay. So as far as my students go, that was heartbreaking. Like, when I say that broke me, it brought me back to that same time of my first year teaching. Like, am I doing this to fail? like right. What is the purpose of doing this? Like, I love it, but am I really that bad at it? Had me in my head. And it's interesting because I'm not gonna lie to you. Every time I have an observation, now I'm triggered. Like, not like so much anymore, but like when I say triggered, like if an admin came in my room, if admin called me to the office, like anytime my name was emailed over the loudspeaker, a phone call, intercom, doesn't matter. If I heard my name being called,
intense anxiety,
summoned, or someone came in my room to watch me, it was like immediate like stress. It was I think actually by the time I got to Franklin Regional Middle School, I think that's when it was just kind of like, I think my mindset changed to the point, and I thank God for this because it took years of like self-care, knowing your worth, appreciating yourself, not letting critique that may not be specific to you, like don't taking it personal, I should say. I shouldn't say I don't care. I didn't care or I don't care, but it's just kind of like, my students know I care about them, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I had to train myself to remind myself, even if they don't learn Spanish, are they safe and do they know they're loved? Because if they don't know they're safe and they don't know they're loved, then I did not teach. Because that to me is the only important thing. Because we're with them every day.
Yeah.
For how many hours a day? Because that includes if I have to meet with them in the morning before school or after school, when we go to their sporting events or any exhibits, their concerts, their shows. You know what I'm saying? Like when we chaperone, like when we spend hours, countless hours of our time. And then there are teachers who do summer school, summer tutoring, homebound, you know? So at the end of the day, I really don't care if you don't learn Spanish. I mean, I do care. I shouldn't say I really don't care.
Right.
But that's not my goal for you is to be loved and be safe. Because
I love that.
Because you'll remember that for forever. That's a forever thing. I have kids who take Spanish and they forget everything. You know, I have kids who are 25, 26 years old now. They're like, oh, Miss Finley, I don't remember anything from Spanish. But they remember my name.
Yeah.
They remember that I cared about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's all that matters. Do you know that I care about you? Then
it's so interesting. I think how like your perspective, like at least my perspective changes like through the years, like those first few years of teaching. It's like I used to care so much about like, oh my goodness, like I cannot believe like they didn't get this question right. Like how did they not get it? You know what I mean? Like it's not that the curriculum's not important. And certainly there's a huge emphasis on like curriculum and are they learning the 9,000 standards, which by the way, nobody can possibly learn 9,000 standards in a year, especially little like 8 and 9-year-olds. You're just like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But are they kind and caring citizens? Do they know about the global world? Do they know about things that are happening outside the walls of these classrooms, which I think that's super important. Because some of them literally don't.
No, I know. Like, that's why. Exactly. And I think for me, being a Spanish teacher, I get a certain advantage or a privilege or luxury in exposing them to that. Like, for example, every day I try to somehow triangulate African Latino culture into my lesson. And I've been doing it lately with music because that's just the easiest. But I want to really do food, but food's going to be an iffy one. I might have to have the kids like I got to figure that out just because with COVID, pandemic, you know, eating allergies, all of that stuff, like food allergies, I got to figure out how to plan that. But yeah, I want my kids to know that I care about them and that they matter. Like, it's not like if you're hungry, I always make it, if you're hungry, please let me know. If you're sleepy, please let me know. I'd rather you tell me than me yell at you. And not know. Like Ramadan's coming up. So if you have any Muslim students, they're going to probably be sleeping. Why? Because they wake up in the middle of the night to pray.
Yep.
So if they're up between 3 and 6 or 3 and 5, eating and praying, then they got to get up again, or they're still up. Let's say they couldn't fall back asleep. So that child's been up from 3 a.m. to they've been up for 12 hours. So if you have you have third graders. So of course they're going to want a little bit more than a fifth grader, or at least be whiny, where a fifth grader might just be sassy. Right. But, that's a whole different species. But yeah, so in my progression in my teaching practice, I've learned to settle for something that is a good goal, an attainable goal, which I say is caring about them as a person, as a human, as opposed to the curriculum. I mean, yes, it is important and I want them to grasp these concepts, but it's also like, do you understand that you need to be cared for and cared about, and then vice versa? You have to care for people and care about other people. So that's been my main focus and my main goal. I guess more of a humanitarian approach, I should say, which is ironic because my Africana studies emphasis was I wanted to be humanities, but because of my love for history, it ended up being a social science track. So all my courses ended up being like towards the end when I had to count what the courses had to be to balance out. It ended up being a social science track. And I was like, I want a humanities track, but I will be in school for another semester. I got to finish.
Full circle.
It's just like, do I want to be here a little longer because I love the subject, or do I want to be done? I'm like, let's be done. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much like kind of how I was able to, I guess, like refocus, like what like made me really love teaching. So I realized, I shouldn't say this sounds super corny, I love teaching when I learned to love myself.
No, that's so true. That's definitely so true.
It just sounds super corny. I'm like, that sounds like a Hallmark movie or something like that. But no, like once I realized like I love what I do for what I know what I can do.
Yes.
So I'm going to focus on that being what I should be critiqued on or what I should. So not that other feedback isn't valuable or useful, but if it doesn't match what my goal is,
Right.
I only take it as for face value.
That's beautiful. I definitely need to work on that still.
Oh,
but
listen, it's still a journey.
It's
It's
a
still
journey.
a journey. I had a
Yeah.
recent observation, and how do I say? I don't want to get people in trouble. I don't care about it. I will say there's two things. I don't want to get other people in trouble. I don't care if I don't get in trouble. I was
Fair
telling
enough.
another person that because being in the part of the diversity, equity, inclusion team or committee, whatever it's called for the high school / district, from what I've told you, from everything I've experienced, what can you do to me that hasn't already been done to me? I already know what my purpose is. I already know what my calling is. So part of it's like because I'm a Christian, so my perspective is literally biblically, what can man do to me? Like, what are you going to do?
No,
my God is way bigger than you. So what are you going? That's what I thought. Have a seat. So there's that arrogance piece / Christian piece that kind of holds me afloat to say I can't get in trouble because my God got me.
No, I love it.
So
with you on,
so
I'm totally with you on that one.
Yeah. So it's like, what can man do to me? And then there's the other piece of, like I said, I know what I'm valuable and I know what my worth is. So as long as you know that and recognize that, regardless of the other things that you may say that needs to be done or fixed or modified or edited, do you see this piece? And I think a lot of times administration, other teachers, other leaders, you know, I think the students more importantly need to see that. And I think when they do see that, those other pieces are very important. They do carry value. But like I said, I take them for face value. I'm looking at the core pieces, like you were saying. Are you a global citizen? Can you partake in heartfelt conversations?
Right. Absolutely.
Can you assist someone when they're in need? Do you know how to ask for help when you're in need? You know, those pieces that make you, like I was talking to the one teacher at the high school, and I said to her, do you remember? And she's a little older than me. I don't remember how much older because she doesn't look that much older, but you might remember too. Don't you remember in elementary school getting a citizenship grade on your report card, like a S?
Yes, definitely.
For you. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, we need to bring that back.
I agree.
Think, because it's like, when you think about it, did you go to Pitt? You said Pitt for your grad school, right?
Yes.
Did you go to Pitt for undergrad?
I did.
Okay, so you remember the OCC credit we had? We didn't have to, but we could get.
Yes.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
The same thing. And I think that would be a wonderful thing for the students to try and achieve, to get, especially those kids that may not be like, I'm super smart and taking all these AP classes.
Yes.
But they're a great person.
Yeah,
you may not be the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. You know, you may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but you have a heart of gold. Okay. I think that matters the most. It's probably the perfect example. I had a student whose dad passed away last semester, and my dad passed away, but I was grown up, and I'm like, I remember I was cussing everybody out. I was such a jerk because I was so hurt. I was mad. I was angry.
Right.
And I told this girl, I said, you don't owe me any work the rest of the month. You're going to be excused for everything. But the things that you have to do, I'll let you know. And then you let me know if you need an extension on those things. Because you can give the kids an incomplete and they can go back and do it. And I said, if any teacher is forcing you to do work, tell them to email me first. And then I stopped by the house because she lives like on the way to I passed the exit for her house on the way to my house. And I stopped by and I gave her like a feel better basket, like a I'm sorry for your loss. So I had like all this girly stuff, like candies, journals, notebooks, tissues, hand sanitizers, lotions, bath stuff, you know, little girly stuff.
Yeah.
And the mom was just so happy. She's like, wow. And it's just like, and I didn't do that for clout. Like I didn't do it I didn't do it to pat myself on the back. Because I know some people do stuff like that. You know how people can like film themselves. Here's me giving money to the homeless. I'm like, no. I want her to know that I care about
you care.
Her.
Yep.
And it's just like, I remember when I went through that, it's tough. Like, and she's a child. Like, I think she's she'll be a sophomore. She's a freshman. But you get my point, though.
She's young.
And it's just like, I think those are the times where, like, And I even told the counselor too, because I don't know if the counselor knew. She like sent me an email saying my dad just passed away. I'm sorry I didn't log in the class. And I was like, first of all, don't apologize.
Right.
Second of all, you're excused. Third of all, I'll let your counselor know so we get everything fixed out. And segue into another piece, but slash the other piece we were talking about earlier about the diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yes.
One of my students who I had last semester, I found out through her mom two things. One, something traumatic happened to her at home. And the mom wanted me to let the counselor, the teachers know why. Well, here's the piece. You would think, well, why wouldn't the mom just call the counselors and tell them? Well, the daughter and the mom, there's a gap. And I don't think it's the counselors. I think it's the district, the culture of the district, where they don't feel comfortable having that conversation with them. In my mind, I'm wondering if it's because they don't feel heard. And that's the issue. That's not entirely an issue with students of color. Sometimes it's an issue with students in general. Because I come from a high school that's like that. I had a high school where like when kids would say racial things, nothing happened. There were times where I would like freak out and flip out. Like one time I flipped a table. The time I told this boy to beat up this other boy for saying something racial to me. Like, I shouldn't have. I shouldn't like go beat him up, but I was gonna beat him up. He was a boy, so I got to beat him up. Anyway, I said all that to say, it's like when the district doesn't handle it, you find your own way to handle it. And I think that's another piece as a teacher. Like for me personally, like I like the fact that the mom and the daughter could feel comfortable enough to approach me, but they only probably feel that way because I look like them. You know what I mean? And I think that's an extra piece. I think they could like they probably could like if she would have had you, she probably would have felt the same way about you. Like this teacher loves me, she cares about me. I'm gonna tell her to tell to tell the counselors like something happened. You know, I'm going through some things. If I don't participate right now or log on or like right away, it's because, you know, I just need time to process, you know. Absolutely. But it's just like it's just those things I think as teachers, like you're saying, like the human behind the teacher, you have to want to be human to treat your students like a human. You know, glorifying sleep deprivation, glorifying I'm working like the other day I did joke. I'm like, I'm working non-billable hours right now. But it was because I had to get some stuff done. Right. But it's like I don't find glory in this. Yeah. And I don't know if your husband does this jokingly sometimes with my boyfriend as he goes, how do you not get your work done? You have a prep period. And I looked at him like this. I said, say that one more time. Run that back one more time and tell me how I'm supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to do in the hour and a half I'm supposed to get done. And I will tell you if that's everything on the list. And he just goes, I was just joking. I go, oh, really? I wasn't laughing.
You're like, not a funny thing to joke about. Yeah.
Like, I don't play. Like, there's certain jokes I just don't think are funny. And I think laughing about how hard we work
is not one of them.
There's a bias. Me and you can joke about it. And I'm like, ha, Brianna, I just worked 30 hours straight. Huh? You like, dang, Shannon. But if he were to say something, I'm like, don't ever talk to me like that. I don't know. But yeah, I don't want to glorify us being robots, but more so honoring and celebrating, like you're saying. Like, I think it's a wonderful project that you're doing, trying to see the humanity behind what we do. Because I think it's important for us to kind of reflect on that and then how we can implement that in our teaching practices so that our students are experiencing humanity in their learning. So when we send them off into the big bad world, they know how to have humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my last question. Sorry, you've stayed with me and done such a great job. It's just been lovely listening to you. Honestly, I love it.
Oh, thank you. I know a lot of words, so I use all of them.
My last question was, I guess, like, so the theme of like kind of this podcast per se, this time around is kind of like, so we're a year past like the pandemic, so to speak, like, and plus a ton of other things that have like erupted in our world and like completely shaken it. So I guess and I'll tell you how I feel first of all, because I'm on the diversity equity committee as well. For me, I just like, I guess because I'm super naive and I just think that, you know, everybody's a wonderful human. Like we're all going to be global citizens. I thought, I guess that like, as we were talking about like the human side to teachers, and I thought for some reason there would be kind of like more of a shift towards like, okay, like it's okay if a student comes in and like they're emotional, because like we just moved from hybrid to like in person, you know what I mean? So like there's been so many like there's like a huge mental health piece that I feel like is not being addressed. At least that there would have been more of a shift towards like the human and the stories of our students, and also like, you know, the whole diversity and equity piece as well. Whereas like I feel like this year, sure, like we have a committee, and that's all great. I just feel like, you know, the movement is so, I mean, I'm sure, you know, I'm also a white woman, but I feel like as a white woman, the movement is ridiculously slow. So you have to feel like it's like moving like molasses, I guess. And also like there's been so many interesting things too. Whereas like I think, you know, I was always under the impression like, well, the humans behind the stories behind us matter a lot, and everyone feels that way. And I think it's been interesting to see the fact that that's not always the case. Not to be negative and end on a negative note. But like I guess like looking past a year now, like did you expect more things to change, be different? Are things different? Is the way that you view things, I mean, obviously the way that you view your classroom and your students is how I wish everybody viewed their students in the classroom in the world. But what are your thoughts just kind of moving forward?
Now, that was a loaded question, but I love loaded questions. So let's
It was a loaded question.
A little bit. Oh no, I love it because it gives me a lot of pieces to answer, especially if I get, because as you've noticed, I jump around to different pieces. Okay. There's perspective and there's reality. I'm a Black woman in the United States of America. Girl, our progress is slow everywhere. Okay. Yeah. Like, there's no way I was gonna think, okay, one, a predominantly white district hired a Black teacher, and I was riding on wings with God, scripture, literally. When I left my previous district, I loved them. I did not leave them because I was unhappy with the district itself, so to speak. It was where the way I had to teach, which was traveling with multiple buildings and districts, buildings in the district, drained me. And it put me back in the same place that I was when I wanted to quit teaching, where I valued my worth. And I told my department head if they were to change my position, I was going to leave. I said, I don't want to be back in that mental space again.
Yeah.
I said, I will be depressed. And I said, I refuse to see a therapist for something that I have control over. Well, I did get depressed during that time. I literally did not care. When I say did not care, I'm talking, I would show up to work when I wanted to. Because who's going to check me? You're not going to fire me because you need me. And that's a super, like, that's not I didn't like that. Like when I realized that was what my mindset was, I was like, oh no. I said, oh no, I need to do better. I gotta go because I'm literally not happy.
Right.
So I applied for Fox Chapel, and I was just like, you know what? If the teacher's leaving, they're leaving. This is the middle of the year. Like they're not coming back. There's no maternity leave. Like they're dipping out. God, please got me. Because if I don't come here, I said I'm done. I said, I literally, like when I said to God, I'm not telling him what to do. I'm saying like, my prayer is this a sign that I'm still teaching? Is this my forever job? Like to be in the classroom, or am I done and I'm doing something different? Because if I don't get this job, I'm done and I'm doing something different. Still in education, still with children, you know, still in the same field, but I just won't be in the classroom. So I was like, I'm done. I said, I refuse to do all these. No, I got the job. I was like, dear God, what? I was like, hold on. If I shuffle, I'm going here. I was like, all these bougie white people. I was like, oh, cool. All right. It's up my alley. I like nice things. So anyway, I get here and I was like, oh, I really am the only Black person. And let me tell you, when I got here, I felt like such a traitor. I was like, I left my people. Like I was like, I felt sick. Like I just was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. These aren't my people. I can't help them. What can I do for them? Like when I say like, I was questioning my value. Like, how am I of value to these people? Like, what can I provide for them? Nothing. Well, I don't remember her name, but this Black female student walked up to me. Random. I don't know who she is. I just left the bathroom. She goes, hi, you don't know me, but I'm just really happy that you're here. And I'm so glad we finally have a teacher that looks like us. Aww. I wanted to cry and hug her, but I was like, she don't know me. That's a little creepy. But I wrote in my diary. I was like, oh my God, that was a sign. Because like I literally was just, earlier thinking to myself, like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm supposed to be at Pittsburgh Public, Woodland Hills, Aliquippa, somewhere else. helping people that look like me want to learn languages. Like that was in my mind, written in the stars for me.
Yeah.
And after, again, questioning my value, my worth, and that student came again, like just said she was happy I was here. That's all she said. I'm happy you're here. We finally have someone that looks like us here. I don't take Spanish. I think she graduated, but she's like, I don't take Spanish, but I'm happy you're here. And when I tell you, I was elated. Like it just kind of like gave me that sense of validation I think I was looking for, as far as like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What can I bring to the table? Okay, so then fast forward, pandemic happens. I'm like, oh my God, life is on fire. Then we come in person. That mental health piece and the piece as far as like looking at diversity and equity inclusion and everything moving slow. It's all slow. I think it's because when it's new, it's a new thing to look at. I gave my students what's considered a mental health day. I don't like to call things. Like I don't say party. I say cultural exploration. I don't say free day. I say mental health day, because you still have to do your work. You just do it differently.
Right.
Like I will say you do 10 breathing mindful techniques and then reflect in Spanish how you felt with one sentence. Like keep it
That's
simple.
awesome.
You know
Yeah,
what I
for
mean?
sure.
A kid the other day asked me for a mental health day, so I think I'm gonna give them one. Maybe next week. And I give it to them also because that's when I know I need one too. I'm like, I'm exhausted. And I've had a student say that from the Black Student Union. She told me that she took a mental health day, which means she just didn't go to school that day. This was months ago. And she's a student leader who gets A's. So if our best, our creme de la creme, if our creme de la creme realizes, hey, yo, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I'm overworked, I don't have time for this, I need a day to rest and reset so I can get back on the grind. And I think that mentality of the grind never sleeps translates into the education. And we are not a business, we are not a corporation, we are not a factory. But why do we have this mindset? Like, that's not the purpose of education is all the things we were talking about earlier. But yet here we are, like, and I think it's hard to find a balance because, again, looking at engagement, looking at students learning, but yet enjoying what they're learning. But I feel like we're trying to serve two masters. Okay, we'll make the classes and lessons, fun and engaging. Like Miss Amascato, like, why aren't the kids up and running around playing different types of games and stuff with the activities? But at the same time, they have benchmarks they have to reach.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like sometimes we get caught up in the benchmarks and the standards, the pedagogy that we forget about. Well, are we being culturally diverse in our pedagogy? Are we making sure the kids feel safe when they're learning what they're learning, or okay? I did a video. I can share it with you later on your personal email.
Yeah.
A project with a local director in Pittsburgh named Eric Smith. And it's a triggering video. So basically, if you've never seen a Black person get shot from the recent everybody, you will see all of it, a montage of it. And you need to be in an emotional space and place ready to deal with that. I say all that to say, remember when the Capitol happened? And the next day, we were back in school, like nothing, no discussion, no nothing. And I'm not saying we have to have a big hoopla about it, but it's like, if we're taking the approach that that's supposed to be normal, and I'm not saying people are saying it's supposed to be normal, what I'm saying is, if there are no conversations or dialogues around what happened and why and how it's different, like, that riot was not a protest where people protest and then you're calling them rioter, like, what I'm saying, like, what message are you sending? And I think part of the other issue is, are people so ignorant they don't know how to find people to help them learn? And that is a critique on the district on my end. Like, if you don't know how to, like, it's like me, and I want to learn how to drive a car. So I'm just gonna sit here and act like I don't know how to ask someone to teach me.
That's a good parallel.
You know how to drive. I'm not gonna ask you to teach me. Your husband, he knows how to drive. I'm not gonna ask him to help me to teach me. I'm gonna tell you, Brianna, I know how to drive a car. Well, Shannon, you have a car. I know I have a car. I know how to drive it.
Yeah, it's great that you put it in the. I mean, yeah, I love that. That's so true.
Because it's like, you don't know how to ask for help. You don't know. So I think when it comes to, like, and again, this is me critiquing, I love the counselors and what they're doing for us, because they have to be just as overwhelmed. They may not be in the classroom, but all the behind the scenes things they do, I don't want to learn it because it sounds overwhelming. But putting it on their shoulders to have to provide social emotional well-being for us and the students. I will say this is a critique on all of that from a student. I had asked them because I have a QRT class this semester, and I
Okay.
said, y'all, for the social emotional learning component you're supposed to do for 30 minutes, do you find it helpful? And a bunch of them said no. They were like, we can do this stuff at our home. Like the one girl goes, no, I see a therapist already. I was like, oh,
You're like, okay.
okay then. So I guess we won't spend time on this because I don't want to waste your time forcing you to do something that you know what I'm saying?
That you
Like
don't find valuable.
well, yes, and I
Yeah.
think that's the other piece, like the mental health piece, like asking the kids what their thoughts were. I don't know if you remember when they were supposed to do that training with the kids telling their stories.
I think so.
Remember? Yeah, I could tell you what happened. Basically, the stories were raw. They were honest. They were truthful, and the dish was like, "Yeah, no."
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Okay.
So
Where
question.
are the stories then? Like, did they?
I don't know. I would have to ask the students. I do have a couple stories. I had some students record themselves and write out some essays that I put in a presentation to show to the district. I didn't show it yet, but it was basically them promoting having culturally diverse classes. So like African American history, maybe women's history, Jewish, anything that can incorporate other components of, because it's like you only learn so much in each class. But
Sure.
either way, they were talking about the importance and the relevance of it. But that goes back to my statement of earlier when I was talking about it in my own classroom and I get a complaint or a concern, for lack of better terms. It's like, if you don't want me to teach it in my little bitty Spanish class, imagine what it's going to be like if it's a whole curriculum. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just like there needs to be, like you said, like the slow progress. It's a slow. And here's the other piece: slow progress is still progress.
True.
And the fact that we are still putting the momentum in the right direction, we just need the right people in place to help guide us to where we need to be. Because at the end of the day, it took how many years before slavery ended? It took how many years before Black people could vote? It took how many more? I will say there are certain things that are progression that shouldn't be things like, you know how, like, I think it's in New York, they have a law now where you can't suspend a girl for having her hair in locks. That makes me sad. That
Yeah.
makes me sad. Why? Like, why? So you have to have a law that says a teacher can't send a chick to the office for having her hair grow like that. Like, my hair grows curly. And I will say, listen, I actually don't mind having my hair straight sometimes, but then you pay for it. Because I'm doing it for your comfort. I'm doing it for your, but that goes back to all the other
Yeah.
pieces of the thing. And I think, and I spoke with this professor in Australia, and just to wrap up the answer, he had said that it's interesting about learning about culture in his country compared to the States. And then, especially in the fact that I think we're now hyper focused on the way he said it was like we're hyper focused on the cultures in regards to understanding it, when really it shouldn't be focusing on the differences to understand it, but just learning. It shouldn't be like,
Oh, that's
you
interesting.
have this type of food in your culture, and I have this type of food in my culture. Let's celebrate our differences. It's like, no, you have that type of food in your culture. Let me try it. This is cool.
Oh,
Or
that's
that you have, you know what I'm saying? Like I think it's the perception that we have of looking at culture. And I think we're really trying to look at it as like what's different about it and how we can highlight those differences, but just highlighting the culture in general. We shouldn't have to say, oh, well, um, empanadas are popular in the Caribbean culture, but then dumplings are popular in Asian culture. Well, let's just all say these are foods that are very similar in each culture and how they make them. In China, they make them this way. In Japan, they make them this way. And it's like you're looking at it in the lens of it's technically really the same thing. We just want to use a different meat or something like that, but not looking at it like it's different as regards to like strange or foreign or weird different, but
right.
different in the sense that that's just how you do it and how I do it, and then just leave it at that. And I, because that's when you get into the whole like when people say divisive and things look, split.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely hope that as we continue to progress, like, I definitely am noted as a token in the district, in the building, and hopefully as we continue to hire more diversity in our district, that we not just hire diversity just so we can say we're diverse. I don't think that
Yeah.
means anything in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's the work that you do behind that. Like, What are you doing to grow yourself to help grow the district? So what trainings are you doing? What trainings are you bringing to the school? What ideas are you bringing to the school? What activities or strategies are you implementing in, like, so for me, like how I'm implementing Afro Latino culture in my lesson, that's me literally doing the work, right? That's me.
Right.
It's not just me celebrating Black History Month or just celebrating, Latin American History Month. I'm all for celebrating and honoring, but what strategies are you actually implementing in your classroom? What is the district doing? What are you actually implementing? And I think that's going to take time and a while. But like I said, I think part of it is like, I don't know how to drive a car. Well, then ask somebody to teach you, or get a book, get a manual, read it,
Get a
find out.
book. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole. I mean, obviously there's a book on permanent, but there's also like Dr. Marks, Dr. Generate, Dr. Cassinator. Like, there's so many people I can list off the top of my head that could help
Yeah.
with understanding how to teach a culturally diverse classroom and how to have a culturally diverse mindset in your district. And I think it's just going to take some time. And this past year, I will also say the pandemic has slowed the momentum down, but I think it's
Yeah.
also showed the true colors of where you are, which is a good thing, because where you are is not where you should want to stay. So a year from now, we should all have grown from where we had grown from last year. You know what I mean? So as long as we're growing, like, slow progress is still progress. However, we need to be intentional. We need to, actually be doing what we're saying we're doing. So